He played a hero who saved lives on screen for 30 years. Then Alzheimer's took his own memory of ever doing it. Gene Hackman was found dead in his home, and what the autopsy revealed about his mind shocked the entire film world. 18 legends, 18 brilliant minds, all stolen by the same disease. Stay to the end. One story on this list will break your heart in a way you won't see coming. And, some of the greatest performers to ever stand in front of a camera spent their final years unable to remember standing there at all. Alzheimer's and the closely related dementias don't care how famous you are, how many awards you won, or how many people loved you. Tonight we're covering 18 British and Hollywood legends, verified one by one, who fought this disease, some in public, some in complete secrecy until the very end. This isn't a gossip list, it's a tribute. Let's begin. Sean Connery. Sean Connery didn't just play James Bond, he invented what a movie star was supposed to look like. Scottish-born, tough, magnetic. He made Dr. No a cultural event and won an Oscar decades later for The Untouchables. He retired to the Bahamas in 2003 and largely vanished from public life. When he died in his sleep in October 2020 at age 90, his widow Micheline Roquebrune finally revealed why he'd disappeared: dementia. It was no life for him, she said. He was not able to express himself latterly. The most famous secret agent in film history couldn't remember his own lines by the end. Barbara Windsor. Barbara Windsor spent 9 films in the Carry On series making Britain laugh, then spent decades as Peggy Mitchell in EastEnders making Britain cry. "Get out of my pub" is one of the most quoted lines in British TV history. In 2014, she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and kept it private for 4 years to protect her family. When her husband Scott finally spoke publicly in 2018, Barbara became one of the most powerful faces of UK dementia awareness, meeting politicians and pushing for research funding right up until her death in December 2020 at 83. Prunella Scales. If you've ever laughed at Fawltytowers, you know Sybil, the sharp-tongued wife who matched John Cleese line for line. Prunella Scales was diagnosed with vascular dementia in 2013, and rather than hide it, she and her husband Timothy West kept filming their travel documentary, Great Canal Journeys, for years afterward, letting the nation watch, with astonishing honesty, what living with dementia actually looks like. Timothy passed away in November 2024. 11 months later, in October 2025, Prunella died peacefully at home in London. Her family said she'd been watching Fawltytowers the night before. She was 93. Tony Booth. Tony Booth played Mike Rawlins in the BBC's groundbreaking Till Death Us Do Part, a show that used comedy to rip apart British social prejudice. Off-screen, he was just as outspoken, a lifelong Labour activist, and famously the father-in-law of Tony Blair. In his later years, Alzheimer's took hold. His family spoke openly about his decline, hoping it would help other families understand what they were facing. He died in September 2017, aged 85. Mark Eden. One villain, one tram, one unforgettable moment of British soap history. Mark Eden played Alan Bradley in Coronation Street, a character so hated that his death, run over by a tram in Blackpool in 1989, is still talked about today. That's the mark of real acting talent. Eden built a long, respected career across theatre, film and TV. He was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in his later years and passed away in February 2021, aged 92. Before we cross the Atlantic for the Hollywood names on this list, some of the biggest stars of the 20th century, hit subscribe now, because next week we're covering the British soap legends whose real lives were darker than anything they ever filmed on screen. You will not want to miss that one. Ronald Reagan. Before politics, Ronald Reagan was a working Hollywood actor for 3 decades, starring in over 50 films. In November 1994, 5 years after leaving the presidency, he wrote a handwritten letter to the American people announcing his Alzheimer's diagnosis. That single letter did more for public understanding of the disease than almost anything before it. Funding surged, and millions of families finally had language for what they were going through. He died in June 2004 after a 10-year battle, aged 93. Charlton Heston. He won an Oscar as Ben-Hur. He parted the sea as Moses. Charlton Heston was Hollywood's definition of larger-than-life. In August 2002, he stood in front of a camera and read a prepared statement announcing he had symptoms consistent with Alzheimer's, his voice steady, his hands trembling. It was one of the most human moments Hollywood has ever witnessed from a man who spent his career playing gods and kings. He died in April 2008, aged 84. Peter Falk. For over 3 decades, Peter Falk was Columbo, the rumpled detective who seemed distracted but never missed a thing. In his later years, Alzheimer's took hold, and it triggered a genuinely painful legal fight between his daughter and his wife over guardianship. That very public battle led directly to a new California law protecting the rights of people with dementia to stay in contact with their families. Falk died in June 2011, aged 83. Charles Bronson. Coal miner, war veteran, then one of the toughest, most iconic faces in Hollywood action cinema, from The Magnificent Seven to Death Wish. Charles Bronson never played it soft on screen, and he didn't talk about his illness off it either. His battle with Alzheimer's in his final years was almost entirely private, away from the cameras that made him famous. He died in August 2003, aged 81. Burgess Meredith. 2 roles, 2 completely different generations of fans. Rocky's gravel voice trainer Mickey, then the campy, cackling penguin in the 1960s Batman series. Burgess Meredith worked from Broadway in the 1930s, all the way through 6 decades of film and television. Alzheimer's caught up with him in his later years, and he passed away in September 1997, aged 89. James Doohan. To generations of Star Trek fans, he will always be Scotty. James Doohan lost a finger on D-Day serving in the Royal Canadian Artillery before he ever set foot on the Enterprise. Late in life, he faced a brutal double diagnosis, both Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease. He died in July 2005, aged 85. His ashes were eventually launched into space, Scotty, finally, exploring the universe for real. Eddie Albert. Eddie Albert made Green Acres a hit and earned an Oscar nomination alongside Audrey Hepburn in Roman Holiday. And off-screen, he was a genuine World War II hero, awarded a Bronze Star at the Battle of Tarawa. In his final years, Alzheimer's disease took hold. He died in May 2005 at 99, one of the longest lives on this entire list. Gina Rowlands. Here's one that will genuinely stop you. Gina Rowlands, one of the most respected actresses of her generation, played an elderly woman with Alzheimer's disease in The Notebook back in 2004. In 2024, her son confirmed she had actually been living with Alzheimer's herself for years before her death. She played the disease on screen 2 decades before she lived it. She died in August 2024, aged 94. Estelle Getty. Estelle Getty was actually the youngest of the 4 Golden Girls cast members, yet she spent 8 seasons playing the oldest, Sophia, hours in makeup every single day to pull it off. In her later years, she was diagnosed with Lewy body dementia, a disease closely related to Alzheimer's that shares many of the same devastating symptoms. She died in July 2008, aged 84. Perry Como. Perry Como wasn't just a chart-topping singer. For 4 decades, he hosted some of American television's most popular variety shows, making him one of the most familiar faces in U.S. living rooms of the era. In his later years, he was reported to have developed Alzheimer's disease. He died in May 2001, aged 88. Rita Hayworth. Rita Hayworth was one of the biggest movie stars of Hollywood's golden age. Her image was so powerful, it was literally painted onto a nuclear test bomb in 1946, something she found deeply upsetting. In 1980, in her early 60s, she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, making her one of the first widely publicized early-onset cases in the world. Her daughter, Princess Yasmin Aga Khan, became a lifelong Alzheimer's advocate afterward. Rita died in May 1987, age 68. Robin Williams. This is the one we said would break your heart. For years, doctors told Robin Williams he had Parkinson's. He didn't. His autopsy after his death in August 2014 revealed one of the most severe cases of Lewy body dementia pathologists had ever documented, a disease that had been silently rewriting his brain, causing the anxiety, confusion, and paranoia that so many people misunderstood in his final year. His widow, Susan, has since become one of the leading voices for Lewy body dementia awareness in the world, so that no other family goes through what theirs did without understanding why. Gene Hackman. And the story we opened this video with. Gene Hackman, the Oscar-winning star of The French Connection and Unforgiven, was found dead in his Santa Fe home in February 2025, alongside his wife Betsy Arakawa. The investigation that followed was heartbreaking. Betsy had died a week earlier from hantavirus, and Hackman, in the advanced stages of Alzheimer's disease, appears to have remained in the house, likely unaware his wife was gone. The autopsy confirmed heart disease as the main cause of death, with advanced Alzheimer's listed as a significant contributing factor. He was 95. 18 legends, 18 minds that once commanded every room they walked into. Alzheimer's doesn't check your resume. If this video meant something to you, share their stories, because the more we talk about this disease, the less power it has to isolate the families living with it right now.